This month, as we all know, Sophie Aldred is returning to the character of Ace, who runs the charity A Charitable Earth in the Doctor Who Whoniverse canon. And Sophie Aldred this month is making a return to a beloved TV series. But Torchwood, it's Torchwood. The punchline is Torchwood. It is not the power of the Doctor. The punchline is Torchwood. Now, this does have some precedent. Last year, there was Torchwood The Red List, which saw Sophie Aldred reprise the role of Ace, Dorothy McShane, for the Torchwood monthly range for Big Finish, along with Paul Clayton, who plays Colchester, who is a Torchwood agent who is in the Big Finish continuity of Torchwood. I know nothing about Colchester outside of these two Torchwood releases. I like how I get to know Colchester explicitly just through the eyes of Sophie Aldred's appearances in these Big Finish box sets. I find that quite funny. But yeah, so this is a pseudo follow-up to The Red List from last year. The Red List had a ambiguous cliffhanger open ending, so it's not strictly speaking a sequel, but this is another story where Colchester and Ace reunite on behalf of Torchwood. Basically, Sophie Aldred as Ace, she is playing an older version of the character in the modern day. She runs A Charitable Earth, and she is being targeted by assassins who are trying to infiltrate her charity. Her charity is massive, it is globe-spanning, so it is an easy target for alien invasion. And Colchester, played by Paul Clayton, working on behalf of Torchwood, has to defend Dorothy on the streets of Venice, and Ace decides to just have a lot of fun while she is abroad on their honeymoon, as they joke about. So let's play a clip from Death in Venice.
McShane, where are you? Oh my goodness! It's Lady Gaga, everyone. Lady Gaga. Do ask her for an autograph.
Get on!
Where did you get a motorbike?
Doesn't matter.
They're following.
What do you expect? What? Oh, cafe!
Look out!
Sorry! I'd like to see them follow us down these steps!
Oh, we're in Venice. Couldn't you have stolen a gondola?
What? Are we trying to outrun a turtle? Do you think they saw us?
Oh, they saw us.
Who the hell is shooting at us?
Oh, back there, on the balcony, wearing a mask.
Right. Great.
We need to get off the streets and hide somewhere.
Fine. I'll see if we can get a room in a hostel.
A hostel?
A hostel. Somewhere cheap.
I knew chat would like that Lady Gaga line, just seeing them flipping out about it. That's very funny. So yeah, it is similar to The Red List in that it is espionage, it is very character driven, it is basically a two-hander between these two performers and very few other supporting characters other than the occasional like minor role, minor player, like for example at one point a waitress comes in to get them drinks, you know, stuff like that. It is a very small scale, kind of typical for your Torchwood monthly range releases where they work on a much smaller scope than the typical Doctor Who releases. But Death in Venice is a fun espionage romp where Colchester and Dorothy are trying to escape from these very creepy, what would you call it, like Renaissance type costumes, people in these masks, because A Charitable Earth has been infiltrated and they don't know who to trust. They have to go under the radar. And one fun detail is that A Charitable Earth is undergoing a lot of scrutiny at the moment from the media because there was like exorbitant spending from some people in the organization, and in order to save Dorothy from a assassination attempt early on, Colchester puts her up in first class of the plane, but then she is photographed, so it looks like the head of this charity is in first class. She's spending all of the money. There's a few things like that happen over the course of the story, which it puts a lot of pressure on Dorothy outside of the fact that she's trying to be killed by these alien assassins. Death in Venice is a fun time, and I like that Colchester, even though I have no comprehension of this character outside of these two Torchwood releases. I think he's a really compelling presence. I think that Paul Clayton is so sardonic, but he has such charisma. He's he gets on a bus at one point and he clearly hates public transport, and he sits down on the bus and Dorothy is like, "Hey, I thought you wanted to sit down." And he says, "Yeah, that's like saying that I wanted pets, so I got lice in my hair." Like, really dry wit like that, and the fact that he doesn't hesitate, it's just immediately, that's his retort. I loved it a lot. And the two have a great dynamic with each other. I will say that Death in Venice has a bit of a convoluted ending. I have no idea how they defeated the threat at the end. Like, genuinely, it was a bunch of sound effects, it was a bunch of shouting. I have no idea how the story revolves. And that's not like the Red List, where the Red List definitely ends with some ambiguity. We're talking like Invasion of the Body Snatchers type ambiguity at the end. That's very deliberate, obviously, it's an open ending. Whereas this one tries to go for a much more, closed book ending, but I don't know how it happened. I don't get it. Lily Who Pew Pew, I'll explain later. Kind of like that, except with a lot more sound effects and a lot more, sci-fi whirling sound effects that Big Finish love to do and distort the voices and stuff. Apart from that, though, it's James Goss. You're in predictably safe hands with James Goss writing the script. The performances are solid, like, the entire way through. I think Sophie Aldred and Paul Clayton have terrific chemistry with each other as well. Great interplay. Even though, obviously, there's nothing romantic there, but there is obviously a great admiration on both sides for very different reasons. I do think, however, the Red List might be the stronger release, though, because this is Dorothy's introduction to Torchwood as well. Like, formally, she knows about Torchwood. She hates Torchwood because Torchwood was created to hunt down her best friend, the Doctor, the Professor. That's why Torchwood was started. That's why whenever I see people on Twitter say, "Oh, Ace should join Torchwood," like, no, that obviously there is a paywall. I'm not expecting everybody who likes Ace to have listened to the Red List, but it makes an awful lot of sense for this character to detest Torchwood. And some of that animosity is there, but it is toned down for the sake of the immediate stakes of the story. That makes sense. But I think that the animosity that she has towards Torchwood and that subtext and the drama and everything in the Red List, it ekes it out slightly as the better story. That's not to try and undersell Death in Venice. It is more action-packed. It's kind of like comparing the Terminator to Terminator 2 Judgment Day, or Alien to Aliens. This is obviously much different in scope, much different in approach and ambition and everything. Very different sets that complement each other really, really well. But if, gun to my head, I'd choose the Red List. But, it just shows that James Goss just has, a great hold over these characters of the Torchwood universe and knows how to make these characters tick. I really liked Death in Venice. It was fun. Messy ending aside, but it's all about the journey, not necessarily the destination. And anything that has Ace in the present day removed from the Doctor, where she's able to stand on her own 2 feet as a character, removed from the Professor, is a win in my book, basically. Harry Smith, if you listen to Torchwood Series 5 and Series 6, you'll learn Mr. Colchester is absolutely incredible. Yeah, I've heard that he's a fan favourite character. Paul Clayton has been playing this character for several years now. Let's have a quick look. This is the one I was talking about earlier, a postcard from Mr. Colchester. You can pick this up for free. It's like 6 or 7 minutes long. It's really good. It's basically a short story narrated by Paul Clayton in character, where he stops an alien invasion by showing them how terrible social media is. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, Torchwood God Amongst Us, Torchwood The Archives, Aliens Among Us, Dorian Gray. Oh, he's been working with Big Finish for quite a while. The Wormery, Kingdom of the Blind. But his first appearance in Torchwood was in The Archives in 2016. He's been playing this character for 6 years. He's a mainstay in the monthly range now. So yeah, Paul Clayton was a Planet of the Ood. Who was he in Planet of the Ood? Paul Clayton, TARDIS Wiki. TARDIS Wiki will have all of the answers. Who was he in Planet of the Ood? He was also in The Infinite Quest, as if that wasn't your first frame of reference. Infinite Quest, crying out loud. Let's say, Ulysses Meagras, Mr. Bartell. I do not remember this guy at all. I'm so sorry. Ulysses Meagras. Forgive me. And Bartle. Bartle? Who's Bartle? Is this the guy who got killed at the beginning of the story? Managing director. Uber claimed, "Have a nice day." Oh, so he's killed in the pre-credit sequence. That's the guy. Cool. I like to think that this is Colchester. He was just undercover, and this is how his story ends. He has several years of adventures with Torchwood, saves the world countless times, and then all of a sudden he just goes to the Ood Sphere and is killed in a pre-credit sequence. Also, sorry, Team Torchwood, that was a €2 super chat. Thank you so much.
Wonderful chap. All of them.
Wonderful chap. Thank you, Team Torchwood.